Welcome, guys. Welcome to the process on this Wednesday night. Tonight's topic will be covering cutting corners, and we'll also be presenting our holiday guide, how to function in sterile processing over the holidays. Welcome, Jessie, my brother. How you doing? Alessandra, how you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me.
All right.
Hey guys.
Now, guys, we'll be right back with the intro. See you all in 30 seconds. So, guys, welcome back to the show. All right, let's get it going. We're starting with cutting corners. Alessandra,
Yes.
let's roll.
Tonight we're going to be talking about cutting corners, both literally and in your process, and we're going to talk about some tools and tips how to navigate that when you see it happening on the floor. And then we're also going to get into the holidays because it's very, very close.
Woo! Get those Pollyannas ready.
Right, get them ready. So definitely. So you guys know we love to watch social media and see the comments, see the questions that technicians have. And one of my biggest pet peeves is when I see technicians cut their Kim guard. Jessie, have you ever seen this in the field?
Actually, I honestly no. And I'm glad I have not.
Right, yes.
I'm glad I have not. But we'll talk more about what we do be cutting is those peel packs.
Ooh, yes.
Okay, those manufactured peel packs that we're not supposed to be cutting. But Kim guard, if I've ever seen that, I think I'd have blown the screw.
Deannard, am I the only one that have witnessed this nightmare? Have you ever seen this in the field?
So
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it. So
I'm glad for that.
Kim guard. So purposefully or unpurposefully by accident. Now, so I've seen people cut Kim guard when cutting through the boxes, right? So that first layer you end up cutting because you squeezing your knife through that box trying to open it up. So that's one by accident. A second,
doesn't that box have like a little circle with an X through it, and then the blade is on there? Doesn't it say don't do that?
Yeah. That's the IFU, right? We don't read that.
Most people don't read that, so it's like a box is a box. Let's get to it. We try and get that Kim guard out. We're low. You're trying to restock the shelves, so that's
especially
usually
if your box is being opened in materials management first, because it's definitely a box with a box with a box. Nothing special about that to them unless they've been educated.
True. It's always like, hey, you have 5 boxes, you have 5, 10, 6 boxes outside. Let's open it up. What are you going? Where's the knife? Where's the scissors? Let's open it up. You know.
I mean, and when you have those, unfortunately, we get those holes in the tray. Sometimes that can be a way that you can tell, okay, what exactly did happen to this Kim guard? Because when you see that knife perfect slice, it's like, probably might have been a little unboxing action.
Yeah, a little frustration going on there. Someone who didn't want to open those boxes. You also have during the pandemic, we had a shortage of soft goods and wrap Kim guard. I mean that's specific to Kimberly-Clark, but we had a lot of sterile wrap with wrap shortages, especially in the smaller wrap, like the 12 by 12s, the 20 by 20, the 24 by 24s.
I think even at one point the 48s ran out.
Yeah, they did. Yep. And I mainly use 45s in my workplace. So 45 sometimes. I try and stay away from the 48s, but you have those 3-tier trays.
Oh yeah.
Coming in a little extra high. They can't even go in the washer, and that's a whole other topic. You have to, try and manage that and wrap it adequately. So, and another topic too, if you don't have the correct wrap, what's the option for that? If the wrap isn't covering the tray adequately, what do you do? Do
sometimes
you?
that's a place where we see some cutting corners where that
Mm-hmm.
wrap isn't quite large enough to really create
Mm,
that envelope
yeah,
fold,
it
but
isn't. Yep,
because it looks
yep.
pretty on the outside, it still
Yeah.
goes into the
Should you
sterilizer.
take those levels out and wrap them separately, or should you wrap them in the container? That's a form of cutting or not cutting corners if you look at it like that. So
Mm.
during the pandemic, we had a lot of issues. I actually saw a few people in my department try that. Hey, we have this tray, we need to wrap it, but this wrap is too big, and then all of a sudden I'm seeing a 45 make two what half of 45 is what 222 or two and a half. I'm like, I never saw that size wrap before. I'm like, oh yeah, we had to cut it. Like, no, 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 we're not
Oh,
doing that. We're not doing that.
man. So, man, Jesse, I know you haven't seen it personally, but can you talk to the text about why it's not okay to cut the Kim guard?
Well, first of all, I mean, lint is one of the biggest things that we want to avoid. So if you're cutting any kind of fabric, even paper, you're going to cause fraying. I mean, those Kim guards are specially sealed when they're manufactured so that they don't fray. So when we cut Kim guard with anything, scissor, a clean cut razor, you take away from that actual seal and it can fray on you in the sterilizer, or any kind of linen that can possibly have. And again, it's against the IFU. Yeah, that's a medical device. It's a class 2 medical device. So you can't alter it at any way possible, regardless of the circumstances.
I mean, unfortunately, but that is so true. It's been tested in the way that it's been designed and manufactured, and so when you alter that, now that's actually a whole new product, and we don't have
Exactly.
an IFU for that.
Yeah, and also back to Jess's original statement on the pill packs. So we have the sterilization wraps. That's one thing. We cut, every now and then, which we shouldn't. But also the pill packs. The pill packs you have in the rolls. What's the difference from that versus the pill packs you have with the sealed edges?
Well, if you look at the ones that the manufacturers do, they put a special 3-line seal on there. Their seals aren't like the half-inch seals that we see, or the 1/4-inch seals that we see with the I build a pill packs, those roll peel packs that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So that when we create our heat seal, whatever diameter it is, it's a perfect perpendicular line to the parallel lines that they make on those wrap ones. The manufacturers put their 3 seals on there for guards, and when we seal over that, we're actually not creating a perfect seal when we cut through that. So we might have some kind of air pocket, or their sealing method may be different from what we have, and it's not compatible. So that can cause an issue.
Right.
So you're saying, let me get some clarification on that. So you're saying the rolls have a different seal from the
manufacturer seals.
Okay. On the sides, basically. Yes. On the sides. Yes. Oh, I never really looked into that.
Yeah, if you look at all the manufacturers of of peel packs that's already like the self-sealing ones, they have that little tapered bottom. Right. When they open up, and it's actually 3 seals that causes that junction there, rather than 1 seal as we have at the ready roll packs.
Is it a manufacturer's specification, or is it a general specification, a standard to have 3 seals? Because I've seen some manufacturers with.
Yeah, I've never really looked into that. I think that's just the manufacturer's seal as how they do it, to ensure a better seal than just 1 solid seal that we would do in a facility.
Yeah, I'll definitely take a look into that, because I want to know a little bit more about that in terms of manufacturers I have used, because then you have the different sterility maintenance times for the different pill packs. So you have to definitely look into if that is actually a factor in the sterility maintenance, because some pill packs have 6 months up to a year, and some have a indefinite shelf life or event related shelf life. So I'll definitely look into that, see if that's a factor with the IFUs.
And that's probably one of the most common shortcuts I see. It's like, we have our peel packs, and a lot of people, I'll be one to admit it, I hate doing those roll peel packs, having to seal it, then seal the other side. You cut it too short, rip it up.
Right. And again,
so,
from the top.
there is a great solution for that out there, but I won't even mention them because I'm not going to give them no airplay right now. So we'll talk about that some other time. But those ready rolls is like peel packs is a nightmare for me. I'm just not a peel pack fanatic. Some people love it.
Right.
I love those self-sealing ones. You just gotta get with those technicians that don't crease on that line good and leave that little air pocket on there.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Creasing on that line.
Yeah.
All right, you know what?
I'm so glad that y'all gonna do some more research on that too, because I remember at one point being trained to create a double seal when I was doing the roll peel packs. But I honestly couldn't tell you where they got that from, like if there was a standard that informed that or how that came to be.
So so let me piggyback on that. So I kind of, from a materials management standpoint in ordering, I kind of actually prefer the rolls, because the when you have the pre-cut, then you have to get this for a certain instrument or certain size. Like if you pull pack in your smaller forceps and stuff, if those pull packs are gone, you're like, oh dang, we only have 5x10. So I gotta reorder the 4x6s. So
that's why I prefer a mix, because you do have some stuff where it's like, okay, I know all these basic needle holders or all these Kellys are gonna fit in this perfect pre-seal pack, and I don't have to sit there and, like Jessie said, cut, make the seal, put the integrator in, put the instrument in, make the next seal, cut my edges. It can get tedious, right?
It's time consuming.
So I'd rather create those for as few instruments as possible, like leave the rolls for the specialty instruments that just don't really fit in a nice size peel pack.
Exactly. Especially if you're a facility that's double peel packing, now that's another nightmare. That's luckily a lot of places are getting away from that, but that's a whole other monster there. So.
And that's another place where we can see some cutting of corners, because if you are double peel packing, you have to remember to keep enough space inside of that, whichever one you've seated, that the sterilant's able to actually pass through. So if that peel pack fits like just perfectly in there, you gotta squeeze it and fit it. You actually need a larger size outer shell for that peel pack.
Isn't that just called a tight fit?
Not in sterility, because remember, when you put that thing in the sterilizer, the first thing it's going to do is expand. You've left no room for that to happen whatsoever.
And I think most of you guys have seen where your pill packs came out the sterilizer, and all of a sudden an instrument just falls out the pill pack. That's because it expanded and it didn't have enough room, so it basically just popped. And then you have that big gap where your instruments just slide right out. I always wonder, why do we sometimes take that risk? You might as well don't take the risk and have a sterile instrument for a longer period of time than take the risk not having that instrument when you need it. So
100%.
Someone from Facebook says, okay, so what about cutting or folding the indicator tips or integrator tips?
Well, as far as that, like and I'm pretty sure no one's cutting the integrator where the actual wicking of the integrator is at, but I'm assuming they're speaking about the ones with the big tails on them. So for those, it's okay. I think it's okay. I'm not sure. I've never seen an IFU that says doesn't do it, but to cut that little tail in order for it to fit accordingly in a peel pack. Because of course, if we're peel packing a Adson forceps, the indicator with the tail is bigger than the Adson forceps, and you're gonna put it in. So of course you're gonna fold the tail up to make it fit in the peel pack, or even cut it to make it fit. And I don't see anything going against that, because the tail is actually more for documentation purposes. Go ahead, Deannard. What's up? What's up?
Actually,
Come on.
So years ago, I worked at a facility. I think there was an issue with that, and I'm thinking, okay, I have to revise my research again. So there was an issue with a few techs who actually knew their stuff, and the argument was that the manufacturer's IFUs for that, and I know that two-letter manufacturer name actually say not to cut that tail. They
I
actually
mean, I
specifically
would.
say do not cut that tail of
Yeah, I
the
was about to say
integrator.
I would actually say don't cut it, and I would use some of Jesse's logic earlier because they're not exactly paper, but I'm not sure what that product is they're made out of. But when you cut it, it does fray a little bit. So that's what I would be concerned about is if I cut it and then I stick it into that pack or I stick it into the tray and then I'm getting that fraying on the outside. So I would say if it doesn't fit, what I would recommend is folding it, instead of altering it and cutting it. What's your guys' preference on those? Do you like those integrators with the long tail?
I personally don't. I mean,
I
I rather get the ones that are just off the integrator. Those things, those ones with the tails. Again, I find myself folding them more times than actually put them in long ways, and especially when you're doing wrapped items, where the IFU to some of those indicators say put it in the geometric center of the tray, and if you got a small tray, the geometric center is causing you to fold that tail. So
Right.
it kind of like contradicts itself there. So I rather have the integrator without that tail on there.
Hmm.
true, and can I say hate? No, I dislike using those integrators with the tail, and I rather if you I know why they have the tail sometimes for visibility because the complaint over the years was from techs. I did put the integrator, they just didn't see it.
Sure.
So the tail will kind of be a more of a visible indicator where this you could follow the tail basically and find the head,
Yeah,
find the
right.
integrator. So and some of those integrators are what about 2 inches, if that 2 inches
Yeah, some of them
length.
close to three. Yeah, they're long.
So like that's in a shifting tray that could easily get lost. Even in loaner trays coming back from different facilities, you actually
Right.
if you just lift the bottom of those loaner trays, you'll find integrators from two, sometimes three different facilities coming back to you. It's like, did they even inspect that when they got it? And then they inspect that when they cleaned it? Did they inspect that when
I'm
they shipped it to
sorry.
us? Like it's a
That's
I'm
whole
just
like
gonna
that's
say
another shortcut.
that's another
That's
shortcut.
another shortcut.
And that's gonna have me real nervous about your whole decontam practice if you can't even figure out how to take out the reusable products before
right.
you
Yeah, well,
clean.
Uh,
so far we've been talking about all the shortcuts in prep and pack, and then we got to hit that
Man,
decon too. 'Cause that's some nice
boy.
decon.
shortcuts back there.
Yeah. So okay, so let me hit on decon for a second. So I just got a bunch of loaners, right? So I see two in the case card, two on top or two on the side, two still closed, two still wrapped. And what do I do? Do I take apart everything? And there are multiple level trees, right? Should I take everything apart or what wasn't used? Do I just slide it to the back?
Slide it
What
to the back of what?
slide to the
This washer
the
with all
back?
the levels exposed?
You're right.
Yes.
Just slide it, just slide it in there and start that washer real quick so people won't see how many levels that tree has. So like
Man.
we have a lot of cutting corners in terms of that. That's why we get filters and something serious. I have been experiencing a lot of bioburden from my rep quiz recently. A lot of the lumens because these instruments have been become a little more intricate in terms of almost everything has a lumen now. So you have those 2 millimeter or 3 millimeter
Oh
lumens.
yeah, the about to say the
So
lumens are also getting smaller.
yeah,
Yeah, them
so,
flexible reamers and those reamer
yeah,
Yeah.
bits.
yeah, and I'm finding a lot of those cannulas with bioburden. A lot. The depth gauge is the one
Hmm.
of the most. I I still don't know why people can't clean it when they know it's the one thing you need to clean
Hey,
out of those synthesis small frags, all those
hey,
large frags. I like,
we're not here
come
to
on.
judge them. We're here to help.
Right. So if anyone has a suggestion on how to bring that to the forefront to the department to focus on your depth gauges
I,
to get those clean. What do you think? Yes.
I mean, I honestly don't see why loaners are such a big challenge. I mean, it should be processed the same way we do every other trade. There's nothing so special about loaners. Everybody makes, to me, and this is my opinion again, to me, everyone makes loaners seem like this intricate, super complex process. If you process it the same way that you do other trades according to the IFU and break down those multi-levels, not putting it all in one stack into the ultrasonic like I see a lot, not putting it all through the washer like I see a lot, not putting the lid under the tray and doing all the shadowing. It's not that complex. Break it down. Is it tedious? Yes, it's supposed to be tedious. But that's how we show that we need the manpower to be able to process them. Because if we're pushing them through, if we're getting 30 loaners and you're processing them 30 loaners in an hour or 2 hours, you cheated.
Big time. Big time.
You cut a major corner that way. 4 washers, 30 loaners with 3 tiers apiece. No, if you did it in an hour, no. In all honesty, if you're doing it the right way, it should take you almost all that whole shift to process those loaners.
If you're doing it right,
easily.
Man, and this is a place where we can really shoot ourselves in the foot, because if we start cutting corners in this process and our customers start to expect this product at that time speed, when you really, are up in a crunch and you have to take your time and go through that, they don't understand why it's taking so long. And that's because we've trained them to believe that we can turn that entire shoulder case over in an hour. And that's not realistic. It's not safe.
Definitely. Robert Beck asked, why are facilities moving away from double pill packing, sorry.
I mean, honestly, again, he said not for the cost. I think it's by the time consumption. It's the actual time consumption. Double peel packing was originally brought to the forefront for aseptic presentation, because they knew storing peel packs, they were cramming them in bins and there was a lot of holes in them and tears. So they double peel pack so that if the outer layer had a hole in it and the inner layer did not, it was still able to be presented, because it's the circulator that's opening that package and presenting it to the end user, whether it be the scrub tech or the surgeon. So it was just an extra protective layer that was given the peel packs. As shortages, as facilities got away from doing so many peel packs and not having so many in stock, the need for double peel packs wasn't as urgent as it was back when single instruments was constant, especially in the days of flashing. They were trying to get away with that and double peel pack and had everything in a peel pack. Nowadays, that doesn't exist like that. In the facility I work in, our peel packs is so minimal compared to another facility I worked at that was peel pack heaven.
Peel pack palooza.
Yes.
We're also seeing language too come through in the IFUs, where some manufacturers will tell you it's just not necessary or it's not validated for double peel packing.
Correct.
So you just want to be mindful and we say it all the time, but check that IFU before you put that process into place. And if you have it in place, it might be a good time to just, hey, let me double check my IFU and make sure that we're good to go here.
Yep. That's so really true.
So true. And guys, one thing. If you're following on YouTube, please like and subscribe to the channel. And also one more thing, give that notification bell a nice little tap with your pinky finger so that you'll be notified every time we have a new show, new content out. All right, guys, back to the show, back to the topic.
Man, so one decon shortcut that we didn't talk about is mixing chemicals. So I have witnessed a chemist or two in the decon area that for various reasons, like I've seen techs do it because they were running low on certain things, so they mixed it with something else. I've seen techs do this because they thought that they were getting like a stronger cleaning power by all these powers combined.
Stronger, yeah, that's what you want. You cut that grist off.
So just not really understanding what's happening here. But please, in decontam, do not mix the chemicals. It's not safe for you, because you don't know what kind of chemicals you're mixing together. You don't know what kind of fumes you may be creating and breathing in that were definitely not what the manufacturers had in mind for you. But also because you don't understand how that chemistry works, you may be actually creating a less effective product by cutting it, and mixing it with other things.
True. Because all enzymatics are not equal. And also, you have to look at chemical burns. You may be Superman walking in there with just a thin layer of a gown and a scrub, and you might be fine. And then someone else with sensitive skin may walk in there and then get touched and get a burn line across their stomach from working close to a sink. So you just definitely have to be cognizant of that. You may not be hurting yourself, but your coworkers may not be as maybe a little more susceptible to those conditions or those chemicals than you are.
Definitely.
And as far as mixing chemicals, I say the same. I've been saying this for years, and I've been ignored and told, no, you're wrong. Our pre-cleaning chemicals, mixing them with our chemistry in decon, it's not the same chemistry.
Yeah.
It may be pre-enzymatic, but sometimes it's a different company. It's a different concentration. So you're changing the concentration of your soap water. And again, according to OSHA, this ain't standards. This isn't a guideline. These are regulations. OSHA standards says mixing chemicals of any kind is prohibited. That includes our pre-cleaning. So it's important to have that process where you're rinsing off your pre-cleaning solution before you're soaking.
Definitely. And it's a cold water rinse. All right.
Cold water rinse.
Cold water, not
something else that you said was about the dilution. Because even if you're not mixing chemicals, if you're over saturating your water with your enzymatic, same thing. You're going to be diluting the efficacy of that product. It's been tested and designed to work within the parameters that are on the back of that bottle. So if you ever forget, just turn the bottle over. It will tell you how many gallons of water. It will tell you how much solution you can use. It will tell you what type of temperature range you're looking for. You never have to guess.
Exactly.
Definitely. If the IFUs are on the product, guys, you don't have to pull it up anyway. If you have that bottle in front of you, it should give you guidelines on how to use it or what not to do. Almost every bottle you see has a do not. Even your eye drops say do not put it in your mouth, do not drink, do not swallow. So every bottle of chemical you're going to use has either it has the full IFU or it has a section where it tells you, hey, this is partial IFU. Go to this website or go to X, Y, and Z and get the full all the information you need to use this product. So definitely, guys, pay attention if you really care and concerned about what you're doing.
That is right.
And if you don't want to do that, put it on your supervisor and your manager. Let them do the running around and find the information so that you're safe using those chemicals.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. Now the other. I have to hit decon one more time with this one. Cutting corner with that ultrasonic. The abuse of the ultrasonic and the underusage of the ultrasonic. I see if you look at the IFU of many of the ultrasonics, the items that you can't put in there: plastic, rubber, glass, cork. But we're putting plastic trays in there. We're putting silicone mats in there. We're putting all 3 tiers. We're stacking trays in there. There's not a multi-level. The IFU of the ortho instruments is telling you 20 minutes, and we're putting it in there for 5 minutes.
Right.
Jesse.
To 5, and we just press start.
So just let me ask you a question now. Let me ask you a question. So viewers too. Let me see. If there's an answer to that. So what about those trays who have IFUs for solidification, but those instruments have rubber handles? How does that work?
Those items, when they have those IFUs for those instrumentations, the IFU is general for all their instruments. But if you reach out to the manufacturer, they'll give you the IFU to that specific instrument, and that instrument will not have an IFU for sonication.
Okay. Okay. All right.
So
All right.
since
Such a good
I can
point.
tell you from experience, Synthes is one of them with their
Mhm.
wooden handle instruments and their plastic handle. They specifically have it in their IFUs for those instruments that have those attachments, the rubber handles and the wooden, not to place in sonication.
Mm.
So I'm removing all my wooden and plastic handles, but the majority of those trays now have those easy to hold, non-slip, non-skid handles so that the surgeon could get to, what he's doing without, worrying about, the blood and valuable and cause them to make a mistake.
Yep.
So now you're saying that only the instruments without those rubber handles are really required to be sonic
Yes.
in some
Yes.
cases per
And
IFU anyway.
And if you're reading that IFU, we're not supposed to sonicate it in the instrument basket it comes in. So that nice little organization tray they give you, we're
Hmm.
not supposed to be cleaning it and sonicating it in that basket. We're supposed to be
Yeah,
removing all of those instruments. Imagine that.
But
imagine.
we
Out
won't
of
get
them
done for
trays.
the day, Jesse. We won't get done, Jesse.
It's a
We
Yeah,
won't get
shortcut.
yeah,
done.
yeah. But
It's that
but but
shortcut.
think about it. Think about what it is that we're doing and what we're supposed to be doing. We said it earlier. We're showing our C-suite that we can still get this job done. But if we show them that we need the staffing to do this job correctly,
True.
the shortage in SPD wouldn't be there like it is today because we're constantly cutting those corners to get it done. There was a software that we tried out. We're trialing it that shows you step by step how to process instrument trays in decontamination. And when they show you the average time of processing a tray, a simple minor tray, it's a 45-minute process.
Right.
Who's cleaning trays in 45 minutes?
Yeah, who's
It's
cleaning them
more
up?
like 5 to 10 minutes.
Exactly.
And some of the soak times alone are 10 minutes alone. So somewhere we're skipping a step.
Somewhere, right? Somewhere we're
Somewhere.
skipping steps.
Somewhere.
You're skipping a few steps, right?
Yeah, more than a few.
Yeah.
So
But I
it's
definitely, I'd echo that. Like, make sure that you're checking because IFUs are updated. Just because you read it a year ago doesn't mean it's the same. If the manufacturer has changes that have been made, you want to stay on top of that. And I also just want to highlight something you said that I want to make sure people don't miss is that some of these companies do have general IFUs that cover their entire instrument line. So
Yep.
you definitely do want to have a relationship with your rep or know how to find that 1-800 number and call the company and find out if they have something specific for the item that you're trying to clean or to sterilize.
I mean, and it's a lot. It's a lot of instruments. I just came across one today with a little coddle kit that came with a blade and a little coddle head and a screw as a 3-piece kit. But in the general IFU, it doesn't tell you that blade is disposable. It's a one you sterilize and you dispose it, but it don't tell you that. So when I looked at it, I'm like, that looks like a beaver handle to me. So I reached out to my rep, and my rep was like, no, that blade is not reusable. And I'm like, well, yeah, IFU is general for this. You push this in one source and it's giving you a general cleaning.
Right.
And they gave me the actual IFU to the specific instrument. And it's telling you that blade, after one use, got to get chopped. So it's important that you ask those questions when you're receiving these items and looking at them, just general knowledge. I mean, the sonic one is a no-brainer to me. We're always taught no plastic, no rubber, but yet we get these trays with these little rubber holders in there. We're placing the instruments in there, throwing them in a sonic. It's ineffective. We're not letting the sonic do its job. Those instruments need to come out of that tray. Is it time consuming? Yes. Our whole practice is time consuming,
Right.
and it should be. And it should be.
I agree.
True.
I agree.
True.
Man, so I mean, speaking of sonics, I got asked this question recently, and I'm curious you guys' thoughts. Well, I know a little bit of where you're gonna go, but if I'm processing eye instruments, is it required that I have a separate sonic?
A lot of IFUs are saying yes. Again, a lot of IFUs are getting away from using enzymatic cleaners for eye instruments. So they're telling you that you should process it in a separate sink. It's almost the same process as endoscopes. Cleaning in between, wiping down your sinks, a dedicated sonic, and if you're throwing it through the washer, you should have a special washer cycle for your eye instruments. So you have to refer to those IFUs. And with the issue with TASS, it's a big issue. So yes, a lot of IFUs are going into that direction of saying a dedicated sonic for eye instruments.
Yes.
Yeah. But I definitely echo what Jessie just said. I do not have much experience with eye instruments, but the little I have, I thought that it was obvious thing that you should have a separate sonic. I didn't know it was a question. It was a question.
Obvious in SPD.
Yeah, I didn't know it was a question. That's why I went, huh? Doesn't everybody know that? So yeah, you definitely need a separate sonic, and definitely what Jessie said about the multiple cycles.
Yep.
And definitely, guys, cutting corners, that's another thing. Your cycles. Like, make sure your cycle is doing what it's supposed to do for that instrumentation. Don't just cut it and take out the rinse and take out the enzymatic cycle and then say, well, put it in the short cycle when that instrument is requiring two rinses and 2 washes for the IFU. So don't just put it in the short cycle and not know what that short cycle is calibrated to.
And that comes with those rapid turnovers. They want the instruments read right now, throw it in a short cycle. Or they want the item IUSS, they want it right now. Well, no, for me, IUSS shouldn't even exist no more. It's the only thing you're cutting out of IUSS now is a dry time. So regular process is 4 hours, IUSS is 3 hours. That's not immediate to me. That's still a long process.
Exactly. Now, if you turn it around a tray in 20 minutes, I'm thinking you're really cutting something you don't need to cut, because if your typical washer cycle is 45, some manufacturers have 30. But if 30 is not short enough for you, what are you taking out? Because I mean, 30 is pretty good. Now, if you want to go down to 10 minutes, you probably have 1 enzymatic wash and 1 rinse and maybe no dry. So is that instrument that went into that cycle as equivalent to the same tray going through a 30-minute cycle? So you have to look at all that when we start cutting cycles or cutting corners. So definitely, that's one of my pet peeves, the short washer cycle.
Yeah, I mean, and I've been there. I've been asked, can you make it any faster? Can you cut this? Can you cut that? And so you do your due diligence, do the research to see if it's something that's really sustainable. But I mean, I agree with you guys. At this point, it seems like IUSS should be something that's nearly eradicated, if not gone. I would love to see it become more of a focus with CMS, to actually, one, come up with a standardized metric so that everybody's calculating their IUSS rates the same way. And then 2, to really get tough about hospitals reducing their use of IUSS. And then furthermore, you've got some facilities now, like somebody just asked, how do you feel about one tray? And with the one tray system coming on the scene, some facilities are saying that they're not doing any IUSS, even though they're running one trays left and right. So, it's become this gray area where it shouldn't be. We should all be on the same page of reduce until it's over.
I agree.
Man.
And to Deannard's point, with the rapid turnovers, at least you would try to throw it through the washer. Some people ain't even doing that. They just hand wash it and throw it right through the window.
Listen,
just wipe it down. Just wipe it down.
I've had peri-op directors, I've had RNs, I've had nurses come and tell me, no, do not wash it. And we've had to, go toe to toe on that red line of like, listen, I want to help you and you're my customer, but on my CRCST,
that's
not
right.
Today.
That's right.
We got to do some minimum cleaning on this thing before we sterilize it. And I know for them it's a little different because they're not in the space, so they may not understand the ramifications of that. But there's no reality where we assume that a thing is clean. In SPD, the whole purpose of what we're doing is learning that those microorganisms that we can't see are a danger to our patients. So we're never looking at anything and going, "Oh, this looks clean, good enough." Right.
And that runs right into cutting corners, starting with the pre-cleaning.
Yes.
Right there at the source, because you have individuals in there. I mean, again, I'm talking from experience because I started off as a scrub. You're supposed to be cleaning those instruments between usage. And when that doctor gives you, when that surgeon gives you that instrument back, you're wiping it down for the next use. So you're already practicing removing gross soil. So why aren't they doing this when they're shipping it down to SPD? Why aren't you keeping those instruments open, removing the gross, especially from them acetabular reamers?
Come on, where's your sterile water on the back table?
That was with the little hamburger patties in it.
Yes.
You know? Get that stuff out of there and pre-treat that thing. You know, it's not that time consuming. Yes, everybody wants to be on Speedy Gonzalez time, but slow it down. Slow it down, because at the end of the day, it affects the whole process. So you can't cut corners there.
On a lighter note, that's why I don't eat patties anymore.
You don't know cut beef no more.
So
that was definitely one of my first experiences in SPD that made me go, "Ooh, wait a minute, is this for you?" Getting those acetabular reamers and having
the first time I saw that, I'm like, "What am I supposed to do? How do I get this out? Is it like, what do I do? I guess there's a special technique I don't know about, because I wasn't taught that. This is after." Like,
but I think also another thing about that topic is to remember, like, we're not the only ones with standards in SPD. So the scrub techs follow AST standards, and again, to Jessie's point, it specifically tells you how to handle your instruments during the case. So it's there's some support out there for when you need to talk to your OR partners about the fact that they are part of this life cycle of the instruments. And I mean, I tell them all the time, if you can scream at me about that bioburden you got in your room, but it starts here. So that means we need to really take a look at, okay, how did this not get taken down, in the room, especially if we're talking about huge chunks of bone or huge chunks of tissue that shouldn't make it down to SPD.
And that's the light of it, when you start seeing body parts in there too.
Yes,
it's a problem.
Got a few biohazard bags left behind here and there,
and
then big toe left behind or something. Yeah.
And then that's where partnerships come in with the OR and SPD. So then you definitely need an advocate from the OR to spread that word that, hey, our practices up here aren't 100% or aren't at the level they should be, which is affecting the processes of sterile processing. You see how I put in the process there?
Infection control, risk management, all those folks, should be at the table when we're talking about the safety and the efficacy of a process, because if it breaks down, there are multiple implications. It's not just that, we have to delay a case, or we have to, send the patient out and try this again tomorrow. There may be legal ramifications or things that we need to report out, or ways that, or instances that we need to calculate. And so it's really important to have a strong team around that.
Definitely.
And a strong team, and also a strong team in terms of the people you have in taking time on the floor in general to report those issues. Because there are times where things happen, you get those body parts, as Jessie said, you get those reamers, and then you're sitting as a manager or a specified tech on the clean side, and you're thinking everything is working good, but we have issues with inspections. But the quality of instruments we get coming down is definitely drastically affecting the product that we produce from a sterilization standpoint. So we definitely need to be aware, or we need to have good ground workers that will report those incidents of those reamers coming down extra bloody, instruments mixed through 3 or 4 different trays coming out from a case, cameras and cords wrapped around instruments or at the bottom of the baskets, scopes with instruments all over them, light cords all over the place in basins.
Yes.
What else we have? We have a whole bunch of stuff. We have trays coming down like they weren't used, but there are like 10 bloody instruments in there. So and the presentation. So anyway, I guess.
Yeah, leaving sharps on there, not taking blades off, bringing down leaving the Devon packs in the trays, which never started in the tray, and they wind up in there. It's a lot, linen coming down, the towels, and another one is still leaving the disposables in there. So the indicators are still in the tray, filters still on the lids,
Woo, it's my
the
pet
tray
peeve.
liner that we placed in there. It's like, come on,
Count
it's like,
sheets. Everything.
count sheets still in there, bloody and wet,
Yeah.
sprayed down with enzymatic as well. Come on, really?
And you get those, and I don't know if you guys experience the same thing. You get those surgical gown cards
Yes.
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
down with all these little notes on it. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it.
Still like it. Why
Please,
anger?
please, guys. To me, the communication level is not, because at first, I really appreciate when the OR leaves initials as to who wrote the note. If we could follow up with that person on what was wrong in the case, what was wrong with the instrument, etc., etc. So
Yeah.
just having a note saying this isn't good. I think I posted something on Facebook where a surgeon wrote something a little derogatory on the instrument that he didn't want it back. They didn't want that instrument back in the tray.
Yeah.
So something a little explicit. So I think a little communication in terms of writing a little S bar. I mean, so some of us are not taught that in sterile processing, but having a little S bar explaining the situation and how that instrument affected the case would definitely help in the long run to correct those issues.
Yeah, we got some good stuff. And yeah, maybe we can do an episode on some of those process improvement tools to help folks navigate that. Because it is important. You don't want to see that coming through your decatam too often.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you gotta remember, every step in that process helps the next step. It's supposed to get easier, not harder.
Easier.
From beginning to end. We always talk about patient safety with what our role is, but our primary goal is to make it easier for the end user so that they can concentrate on patient care.
Yes.
We have to concentrate on, we put, when we do our trays, I always tell my students and all of my employees is that acronym FAN. We make our trays functional, accurate, and neat. So that end user doesn't have to be
I like that.
guessing what's in there. We put tip protectors on sharps so that they don't get, strike through penetration or get injured. But when we receive the trays back, we got scalpel blades on the knife handle. The sharps aren't separated. The blades aren't opened up. I mean, the same care that we give our instruments to give it to our end users, they should be returning it back to them because it's their product. I mean, it's theirs. True. It's not ours. It's their product. So handle your product with care so that we can perform a better task and a better duty to meet your needs. Because at the end of the day, if you're frustrated, you're not concentrating on the patient. And that's where we impact patient care.
Yes. Thank you so much for saying that.
Thank you so much for saying that. Should I drop a bomb on that, Jessie?
It's so true.
Good take.
We don't think about that, how we get frustrated when the OR is yelling at us because they don't have what they need. But we don't think about that you can actually be causing somebody else to be distracted and not offering the highest quality of care because you set them up with this bogus products, and it may be an accident, maybe it's not, but every time it happens, you just add another layer of stress onto a healthcare worker. And we all know we don't need that.
Exactly.
And then just to piggyback what you're all saying on a process improvement, from a process improvement standpoint, you definitely need to create those SOPs in your department so that persons know what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. So that in your reports, in the manager's reports, supervisor's reports, or communication with the OR, they say, hey, these are our pain points, and these are reported by our techs who are on the front line experiencing this. This is what slows them down. This is why you can't get your first cases done on time. This is why we can't get the priorities, in a timely manner. So that'll definitely help provide a case for that. But definitely create those SOPs with those standard practices of what's acceptable and not acceptable coming down to your decontamination area.
Exactly, and those definitely, and that's another shortcut that I would like to talk a little bit more about is how we train our technicians, new and old, because a lot of times is this is an ever-changing field, especially with technology and different equipment that we have with boroscope usages and lab testers, the different brands and, everything that's out there to assist us in doing what we're supposed to do the proper way. But a lot of the older techs aren't used to seeing that, especially if it's rolled out new and they slip back into their old habits. So when they're precepting newer technicians, it's like, oh, well, the way I do it, we got to get that I out of there.
You gotta get it out, because if you ain't saying the way the IFU does it,
exactly.
You're missing two letters there.
You're missing two more letters.
There's a lot of shortcuts in that sense, especially, I mean, again, going back in the prep and pack, we know our standards say we got a dirty instrument in a tray. The whole tray goes back, not the instrument. Or don't brush the instrument in prep and pack and say, it looks good, and throw it right back in the tray. That is a huge shortcut that disappears magically when Joint Commission comes in. For some reason. Disappear. Everything disappears. The alcohol disappears. The brushes disappear. Even the adhesive removers disappear. But it's so common in our practice because everyone's so used to this instrument's dirty. It's a little speck. It's a specible. Just brush it off. No, that's wrong. That's wrong.
Yes. Wrong. Very wrong. And I don't care what it is. It doesn't have to be bioburden. Anything can trap a germ, right? So, if SPD doesn't understand that, who does? That's what frightens me. As if you can go through that CRCST program, take that test, get into assembly, go grab a cleaning brush and scrub something off of an instrument. Like, what do you really understand about what we're doing if that's what you think is acceptable on the clean side?
It's amazing to me how that habit picks up so quickly. That's like it's like almost like a second. It's like a extension to their appendage. It's like, no, where did you learn that from? Like, where did you? It's like you were drawn to that so quickly, like this. But
don't send that tray back to decon. And I gotta repeat it again. What you said is so true. It's not just that single instrument, it's the whole tray. And again, if SPD techs don't understand it, who's going to understand it? That I don't know where that thing has rolled around. I don't know what it touched. I cannot just assume that because bioburden is right here, it was nowhere else on this kit. Send it back to decontam.
I tell people this all the time, and it's like I try to, for individuals that don't understand what we do in SPD, especially with newer techs that never been into this field and they're getting into it. If you go into a restaurant, they give you that nice little towel roll with the spoon, the fork, and a knife in there, and you open it up and you see a dirty fork, and you tell the waiter, "Hey, waiter, my fork is dirty," and he sits there and he grabs his shirt and wipes that fork off and give it back to you. What would be your reaction?
You will tell them to get that out of here.
I would. And then the other thing is, as an SPD tech, you start looking at things a little bit different. That fork was dirty, so is that spoon and that knife. I need a whole new set.
Right.
I just say give me plastic. Just give me plastic. I don't. I don't.
Give me plastic. Yep.
Perfect example.
That's why we're moving to reusable or one-time use and flexible endoscopes, because they're so difficult to clean. So let's just move to the plastic disposable ones.
And again, it's not even. Yes, they are difficult to clean, but again, it's the time that it takes to clean them. Nobody wants to take that time to clean them. Nobody wants to run those brushes down there. Nobody wants to flush for the allotted time. Nobody wants to soak for the allotted time. I've yet to walk into a decon that has a timer for the sinks. How do you know you got a 5-minute, 10-minute, 15-minute soak? Nobody. Me personally, I don't soak and look at the clock and be like, okay, 15 minutes. If there's no timer there, then you're not following. You can't tell me that you soaked for 15 minutes, because guess what? You don't have a timer there. So that's right. One of the things that
you can't be in decon like this.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let me do this real quick. And but that's all part of that process. Again, one process takes care of the other. If decon is done the right way, then we shouldn't have to be brushing and flushing and doing all this extra and prep and pack. We shouldn't, and I'm going to hit a button right here, Deannard. We should have to use those air hoses in the because drying should have took place in decon. If you're sending those, here's my thing with the air hoses, and this is why I get such a pet peeve with me.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to 12 different facilities in SPD throughout my career. I've yet to be in a facility where technicians are taking sets straight out the washer to assemble them. They're taking them off a shelf that's sitting there. If they're on that shelf sitting there for however many hours, minutes, and they're taking it to their station and it's still wet, something's wrong with your process and your washers.
Yeah.
Same thing with your hand wash. If you're bringing a hand wash item and it crosses that window and that thing is dripping wet, something's wrong with your decontamination process.
Okay, Jessica, hold up.
Because guess what? Infection control tells you that microbial life needs some kind of nutrition. Water is nutrition. So if it's sitting on a shelf for X amount of hours wet, then those microbes every 20 minutes are multiplying. And you have a whole host of microbial growth in those sets. If it's dry before it comes to prep and pack and clean properly, then you've done your job in decontamination. I don't think that you take a shower, don't dry off, and put your clothes on wet.
They call that air dry, Jesse. They call that air drying. All right.
No air drying and moisture product.
No.
Okay, so Jesse, on a serious note, so Jesse, sometimes washers are calibrated differently based on the dry time. A lot of places think the dry time is expendable. So if the washer cycle is the entire cycle is like 30 minutes and the dry time adds another 10 to 15, they would cut on the dry cycle to run more cycles, more loads per se. So then have you ever seen a wet Fraser suction come out of a dry instrument tray?
Have I seen wet ones?
Yeah.
Out of a dry instrument tray?
The entire tray is dry, but the suctions are wet.
If they place those suctions in there properly, then no, I have not seen them wet. Because those suctions should actually be the last thing that you put on the top of your tray before you put it into your washer, because those take special attention for flushing and brushing. So they should be nesting on the top of your tray. So in actuality, they should be drier than all the instruments in the bottom.
But you have to account for instrument movement within the tray. When you have that cavitation spray force action, nothing stays the same way when you put it in the unless it's in a slot or something.
Yeah. No, definitely not. But we also know that in washers, there's a very low chance of moisture getting into those suctions because there's air pockets in there unless it already had moisture in there when you put it out. When you took it out of that hand wash and you took it out of that ultrasonic, you should have been rinsing it before you put it into your washer. Oh, yeah. So that includes in the IFU flushing those lumens before you put it into the washer. And that's where the shortcut is done as well.
I gotta do some more research on this.
Jesse, you correct, Jesse. But if you're flushing it, are you drying it also? It still has moisture.
No, you're not drying it. But the dry time, again, remember the dry time in the washer is heated water. It's heat.
Right.
So that heat right there, metal, and if it's an all metal set and it's on the very top, then the heat that is produced in that washer is going to dry that. It's going to dry that lumen, especially if it's placed in the right way. And again, with lumens, we should be putting lumen flushes in our washers anyway. So we're not properly cleaning that either. So our washers are only disinfecting and cleaning the surface of an item. It's not taking in consideration the lumens. So we have to be very diligent when we're hand washing those lumen items before we place them into the washer. And again, if it's sitting on the shelf for a while and it did it right there, come on, you could barely handle a set coming out of a washer. It's piping hot.
It's hot.
I could do it. I could do it.
Yeah.
I'm Senor Caliente. I could do it.
Yeah, telling you, Jay. On the
So,
job.
okay, let's get into some of our questions. I think Veronica's been asking a few questions. So,
Hey,
I really
Veronica.
appreciate that. What's up, Veronica?
Hi, Jeff. Hi,
She
Angel.
basically made a statement here. It shouldn't be it shouldn't make it to decon, but we need to be on the same page in terms of the
Mm,
OR and SPD in terms of the product they're sending to us.
yeah.
Um,
Hopefully you can be. I mean, I've worked, I've been across the gamut. I know it's not always popular to say, but I've worked with some teams where it was like, oh God, this culture is gonna take more than me, to really make an impact. And we had to focus on what we could affect on our side of the fence because we weren't really able to get the OR to come to the table with us. But on the flip side, I've worked with teams where the peri-op department was eager to partner with the SB department, come up with projects and be helpful, and understood that they were a part of the process, right? They're not just helping us, they're helping us have a better and safer product for the patient.
And again, a lot of that collaboration with the OR. Now, there's a very few times, and I can say the majority of the time, again, we all know that only like 10% of a tray gets used. So it's not like you're wiping and taking the gross oil out of all the trays. And a lot of times it's not possible to do it with every instrument. Those rasps, those brooches with the rough edges, they're not going to be able to get a gauze and get that off of there,
right,
and get it squeaky clean. And we're not expecting it squeaky clean because honestly, when people see sets that are squeaky clean, that's when they're most likely to want to do the little shortcuts, and get that there. But come on, it's like,
isn't that ironic that a tray coming down from the OR in a more cleanly state could actually entice someone to do less than their fair share of cleaning practice?
It is, and some people backlash at me with this when in decon is with those IFUs when they tell you to brush instruments, they don't tell you to brush just the visibly soiled instruments. It says brush instruments. Yes. Okay, we're supposed to brush when you take a shower. Again, I always refer to myself the home care. When you take a shower, you're not just washing one arm, and wiping it. I hope you're not.
Look, I say we don't know what y'all doing, but
we don't know what's happening.
We hope.
You got to get what's visibly, because biofilm is not visible. Okay, so as a tray sits there, however long it took that technician in decon to get to that tray, that bioburden and that biofilm has been growing on the instruments adjacent, across, under. So it's important that we brush our instruments. Time consuming, yes. Necessary, definitely yes.
Yeah, 100%.
So what do we say about Jeff?
Jeff said the problem is the amount of money you get paid sometimes, or it beats you down and not let you do what you're supposed to do.
Okay, I'm gonna answer this one real quick, Alessandra.
Go for it.
If you're in this field for the money, then you shouldn't be in this field. I'm gonna say that part of it. Yes, I do believe that as technicians, we shouldn't be getting paid less than $30 an hour.
Simply said.
I honestly believe that. But if you get into the medical field, and initially it's not for the money. It's because you want to make an impact on someone's life. It's because you can. First of all, you have to have a certain degree of care and passion to be in the medical field in general, whether it's a nurse, whether it's a CNA, a medical technician, a radiology technician, whatever it is, you have to have that level of passion and care for another person's life. So in our department, yes, it's frustrating, but if you're in this field for the money, then you've already lost the battle. Go ahead, Deannard.
All right, Jessie.
It better be good.
All right, so the medical field, I understand. I was in the medical field. I grew up, thinking nurses were the most helpful, caring people on the planet Earth, right? So the sterile processing, I'll put that in a whole other section. The most persons, because I have a couple, I know a couple persons who teach the course. I participated in some courses. I'm teaching some courses also. So what I have seen for persons coming into the sterile processing field are persons who usually the age range I'll gauge late 20s to 30s, and you have the sometimes closer to the 40 range. And those persons are coming in mainly because they're either their first career failed and they're trying to get into something more stable. They had a job, not a career, basically. Secondly, like just the burdens of life, they want something stable. They had a good job, but they want something stable. They're not put on leave. They're not put on furlough, etc., etc. And the third reason is they just hearing about something that they could grow with, right? You're in a dead end job, you're making good money, but you're not going anywhere. So they see sterile processing as a career to grow, and the average age of a sterile processing professional is like 42 to 43 ish. So the main reason I say that to say the main reason I see is not because they really care about what they're doing. A lot of people come into the class, they actually finish the class, don't even know what they're going to be doing. They come into digging time, they're like, oh, blood? I didn't really sign up for this. I thought we would just be doing instruments, you know? Or people come out of the class saying, oh, I thought I'd be making six figures. You know, some instructors sell their courses based on how much money the students are going to be making at the end of the day. But not informing them, certain hospitals may pay you $10 an hour. As Alessandra started way back when at $7 an hour.
Yes.
Some you may get lucky and pop into a job making $20-some an hour for your first year. And all that has to do with connections too. You know, if I ask my little brother to go take a course and I'm a manager or I know a manager at a facility, he might just pop up making $30 an hour in his first year. So it depends on who you know sometimes, the circumstances, and what you know and how you're able to navigate being a new professional in the field. So everybody coming in don't always care, but and their motivation is usually different for most. Some come into the field not even knowing what the field is about. All they know is a stable job to provide food on the table for their family.
Yeah, and that is true. A lot of people into this field. I came into this field not knowing what it was. You know, I came from the veterinary field, you know, and I never heard of sterile processing. I knew veterinary, I knew the vet, and we did all that. A veterinary technician is equivalent to a nurse. We do everything. You know, from drawing blood to sterilizing instruments, from scrubbing in with the doctor for surgeries, the patient transport, all of that is in the veterinary field. So when I got into this field, again, I started as a scrub tech, and I was like, you know, I don't know what that was. I just seen that it was very hands-on. I knew that the money range was between $18 and $25 an hour, and I came from a job making six figures, so I took a downgrade on it. I just wanted something new and exciting in my life. This field is one that has a lot of potential for growth. It's never advertised, and a lot of individuals get stuck. So the money is out there. Yes, it is. But if you think that the money is within the confines of your four walls in your facility, then you are lost. You're lost. You have to open your again, education's key. So getting those multiple certifications, networking is huge. I didn't know nothing about networking until 8 years into my career. I didn't know anything. I didn't know Alessandra. I didn't know what Deannard. I didn't know none of you guys because I was shelled. I was like, I'm just coming here. I'm doing my job. I'm doing my 8 and I'm skating. But as I grew, as I got my certifications, as I got my knowledge, I wanted to network because I knew there was something bigger out there. There's something great. I'm an old man now, so it's like, you know, I wish this opportunity was better for me now, but I'm still not going. As long as I can move forward and learn, I will continue to educate and give that knowledge to the new people coming in. Is just don't look at the four walls in here, because you may not. I left a very, very good facility that I loved, but there was no growth for the technicians there. They rather had hire outside than promote from within. And I love that facility, but I had to leave it because I was growing and they didn't want me to grow. So you definitely have to do that. And networking is key. It's let me tell you, networking is, my God, if I had to rate it from 1 to 10, it's probably 10,000. Networking is extremely important because, again, that's where the growth is at.
You know, I'm gonna take a slightly different approach in that, first I just want to say to Jeff, I hear you. It's a frustrating experience when it's tough and if you're not being supported, in addition to not being paid well. But I also have to agree with the guys. Like if you're in it for the money, then you're gonna be consistently disappointed because this ain't that. If especially techie, like I hear you. Like as far as like career ladder, there are ways to expand yourself within this field. Even as a tech, there are ways to make more money. The ways to diversify yourself, and especially now we're seeing so many small entrepreneurs start in this arena. People are really carving out their own ways to leverage their knowledge, but I mean, on one hand, yeah, it's not fair where we're at as far as pay. It's pretty ridiculous, the way that we're being compensated in the departments. But what I would be concerned about is, are we saying that if you got paid more, you'd be producing a better product? You know what I mean? And that's something different, because if it's to the point where, okay, I pay you more and now you're doing a better job, we got some friction going on, because SPD is really not the type of place. I mean, we've talked about it for an hour now, where you can cut corners for any reason. So I'm with Jessie. If you feel like that's where you're at, it's just not giving you enough, start to look at the spaces outside of where you're at right now. Do some networking, get on LinkedIn, start dreaming a different dream for yourself. And there's so many different avenues. I mean, we've got folks that are going into IT, folks that are repping, folks that are doing social media. So there's so much that you can offer if you've got that background in sterile processing.
And again, when it comes to the money part, I mean, at what point is it going to be enough? So what if we do raise the cap that we're at $30 an hour? Sooner or later, that $30 an hour isn't going to mean anything either, because the price of life goes up. So at some point, 30 is not going to even be enough. And then the excuse will be again, oh, we're not getting paid enough to do this. Look, firefighters start at $40,000 a year. They got to run into a burning building to save a person's life.
Right. So this is a conversation. Like, we started to see McDonald's workers making 18. Amazon warehouse 18. And I mean, working on the coast, I've had technicians come in at $20, $30 an hour. Working in the Midwest, though, like Deannard said, I started at $7.25. And when I left my facility 5 years later, I was making $11 an hour, and that was as a supervisor. So it literally took me moving out of that area in order to expand my income, in the sterile processing field. So I don't know, I don't know what everybody's story is, because not everybody can just pick up and move. That's another thing. But even now, find a way, because with the way stuff is online now, you really don't even have to leave the comfort of your home to make an impact.
Exactly.
And you have to look at it from a personal standpoint. How much money is enough money?
I'm with Jeff on that one. They need to be paid more, and I don't think it's enough to ask the techs to dream about making less or to dream about what's making more, because there is, especially from a management perspective, there's a level of resourcing that needs to take place. If my staff can't make their mortgage payments, they can't make their car payments, they can't afford daycare, they're going to come in stressed out. And if they're stressed, just like we were saying earlier, if they're stressed, they're going to give less. And it's not because they're trying to, right? But their minds are just overrun with all these other things. You're not going to be your top-notch self. So there is, there's a sweet spot between, what's too much, if we can dream about that, and technicians saying, honestly, this ain't enough to do what we've been doing.
But you definitely need to. I agree with what you're saying, but you definitely need to look at money management skills from a personal standpoint. Ooh, yeah. If you're making 50 and 60, will you be in a better place, or will you be just spending more money with more debt?
So this is so important.
And be right back as if you were making $12.
Yeah,
exactly.
That happened to me as a travel tech, because like I said, I started at $7. I left at 11. When I became a travel tech, that was closer to 20, plus all the incidentals and housing. And when I moved into management, it nearly doubled my income in 1 year. I had almost no idea how to navigate that. How do I do my budgeting now? How do I do my taxes now? I remember having a meeting with one of the Fidelity reps at the facility, and she was telling me, oh, you need to be careful about making, $2,000 or $3,000 more, because it's going to raise your tax rate 10%. And I was going, what? right? Because to me, prior to that, making more money meant more money in my pocket.
Right.
And in that situation, making more money meant less money in my pocket. So it's, it really is, you do want to spend some time educating yourself about money management, because no matter what situation I was in, I can look back and see where I could have done things differently and been in a better position.
You definitely don't want to cut no corners with Uncle Sam.
Man.
Definitely with Uncle Sam, you definitely want to give him his due, because he'll be right back knocking on your door.
Knock.
Where's mine?
With the boys in blue.
Yeah, with those certified letters. Where's my money?
Yep.
Yeah, thanks for that comment. That's great. Did we miss anything else in the comments?
We have the communication from Veronica. What is the best way to break down barriers, communication between OR and SPD? It's better communication. I just think better ways to communicate, more ways to communicate. You definitely want to show them the visual. Take photos of whatever issues you have down there. You have bioburden coming down. You have bioburden even making it to your clean side and catching it. Let them know, hey, this gets through. We caught it. We keep catching it, but there's going to be a point where it's going to make it back to you. So definitely let them know, and let them know what steps you're taking, so that it won't be like you putting all the pressure on them.
You're coming upstairs like, you suck.
Here's why. The other thing is, a lot of facilities have, I don't know what a lot of facilities call them, verges, safety nets, et cetera, reporting systems on things like that. And a lot of people don't like to use it because, I don't like to be a tattletale. I don't like to be point. It's not about telling. It's about correcting a wrong action. That's what that system is there for. If it's a consistent action, then you have to correct it. And if you don't, that communication will always be mixed up. I also find that it's helpful to know what the other side is doing. So have an advocate. Like, I know our department in my facility, I was a scrub tech, so I understand what goes on in the OR. One of my leadership members was a former scrub tech for 20 years. So they understand. So that communication between them and the OR becomes smoother because they're speaking their language. We speak AME, they speak AORN or AST. We can speak all that language and say, hey, we're all running on the same road. One might be on a fast lane and maybe one's trying to pass, but we're all going in the same direction. So having that communication and understanding what one side does is very, very helpful.
Very. The only other thing I would add is just try to come up with some different ways to connect the teams without it necessarily being about an issue. So like this could look like, maybe you guys go up to review the OR schedule with somebody in the OR every day, or maybe you have a bi-weekly meeting where you and maybe a nurse or a scrub tech sit down and talk about what issues came up, or, what worked well, what didn't work well. And you are able to establish a regular communication with each other to where you're not strangers to the OR. Because I find, everybody's nicer to the people that they know. And so if you're able to build a relationship with them where you're checking in, like as a manager, if you're rounding on your OR rooms and making relationships with your surgeons and your OR directors before there's an issue, it makes it a lot easier for you guys to bridge the gap when there is one. And then the only other thing I would add is just keep the conversation solution-based. Nobody wants to be browbeat over the head with, everything that they did wrong, and then somebody expecting them to just come up with magic, right? So, you could talk about, what you think might work well, or offer some assistance to just kind of bridge that gap so that it's there.
Definitely,
I agree 100%. So, guys, in terms of cutting corners, let me just say, I had a thought. In terms of cutting corners career-wise, I wanted to look at that a little bit. Guys, if you're a new technician and you want to make more money, learn your craft first before you decide to facility jump, because that doesn't look good on your resume, and you might end up being somewhere you don't want to be based on the money. Before you learn your craft, learn your craft, then I think it's a good idea. You could move on. But if you got a job and 2 months in, you seen another job for more money,
go,
and they're expecting
You know, something.
And
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna cut you off real quick, and I
uh,
apologize. But I know someone who actually did that, and it was very beneficial to their career.
Yes. Cut.
oh,
Every time they jump, let me tell you something. They didn't stay in a facility for longer than 4 or 5 months, and every time they jumped to another facility, it was always moving up from supervisor to manager, et cetera, et cetera. It all goes down again. It all comes down to that networking. If you
true,
know
true.
that network and you can jump, I'm with
Right.
Alessandra.
Go.
Jump, jump,
True,
just
true.
go.
But no, my
I mean, I
point
hear
is
you. I think it can look bad from a hiring perspective if you have, a lot of facilities on your resume in a short amount of time. And then also, I think, really what you're trying to get at is, don't put yourself into a higher position or something that has more responsibility and you don't have the foundational
exactly.
skills to
Yes,
carry
yes,
yourself through. Like
yes,
you're just setting yourself up for failure
yes,
in
yes.
addition
That
to
I agree
whoever
with.
you're, dealing with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you're coming into them. Yes, I did robotics, I did Da Vinci, I did orthopedics. I'm great. I do 20 cents an hour, and then you come in there, you like
What's
you
this?
don't. Why?
And
Well, you're
because
still asking questions.
definitely, like
What's
what
the
you
name
were
So
of
saying,
this?
I've seen techs
What's the name of
hop.
this instrument?
Okay, like what is this? Like I've seen techs hop within 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, and it's put them into much better positions. And I think the other thing with that is just also being honest. When you are moving on to
uh
the next place, let them know what you
right.
have under your belt, and what you need more work in, and then talk to them about your soft
uh
skills, about how you go above and beyond to learn those things. You want to know the information, and you will become an asset. And this is what you have to offer today. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
True.
especially with the way the market is right now, if you have been thinking about a different position, it's time to jump.
I have to bring this up. There's a guy on YouTube from Sterile Processing, and he basically said, "Lie on your resume. It's
No,
okay, just lie on your resume."
no, never
And
do
guys,
that.
it's not okay because you
Yeah.
probably, when you get caught,
And
that
you will.
would you probably will. That won't look good
I
for
mean,
you.
I've been across the table from people that have fudged their resumes and, and they think because they're going to a different facility, they're not going to run into somebody that they
Uh-huh.
know or somebody that knows them. And, the first thing that happens when you say, oh, we just interviewed such and such, and they have this background and this background. And then the other person's going, huh?
Mhm, mhm.
No. Like that
No,
is the quickest
That,
way.
no, right.
that fake it till you make it only works for people who can actually compensate for that.
Woo, come on.
You're not one of them individuals that pick up on stuff real quick, or a very attentive learner, or very active with asking questions to get solutions or
Yes.
answers. That's not going to work for you.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
No.
don't fake it to
And
make
you
it. If
never
you
know
can,
what people are
if
gonna
you
ask.
You
yes,
And
never know.
once you tell one lie, you gotta tell another lie to cover up the previous one. So
yeah,
I've seen texts that added a position that wasn't real and then didn't get the dates right. So when we're looking and we're going, okay, you worked here at this time, but then you was also full time over here doing this. Like,
Yeah,
make it
yeah.
make
and that was
sense.
and that was 3 states across. So
You're
Right.
right.
And now you're sitting
And
there
then you
going,
look,
how was that
and
commute?
and then you're like, I worked there that same time. I didn't see you.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
or that place doesn't have the type of position. I mean, SPD is a small world, and I've worked in the Midwest. I've worked in the West Coast, in the Bay Area, and on the East Coast. I've run into people that I worked with in Oakland when I was in Worcester, in Boston. I've run into folks in the Midwest that I've worked with, out in the California area. So you just never know. And then especially now that everything is so social media driven, I wouldn't try it if I were
Yeah,
you.
Don't try it.
get put out
Don't,
there.
don't
Don't do
try
it.
it. Don't try it.
It's unnecessary because there's so many marketable soft skills. Just get creative. So many. I think about I on SPD. If you are trying to revamp your resume, I would check that out. She has a lot. Cylindra Barefoot has a lot of free resources for you to
Yes,
update your resume and to also talk about other skills that you have that you may not think are SPD related. That you can use, things like some of the computer programming you're familiar with. If you're good with Excel, with Word documents, if you're good with statistics, making graphs, if you're extremely organized and you're good with maintaining records, like those are things that you may not think about as marketable skills within SPD, but they are highly, highly sought after.
yes,
So true. So
yes.
true. So true.
Man, so we
guys,
got Jessie on. We didn't went for an hour and 20 minutes.
It's all good.
We should have known.
And look, and we ain't even cover all the SPD. We ain't talk about transport. We ain't talk about
records.
You know, we ain't talk about records. We ain't talk about management. I mean, there's so much more.
We didn't even talk about reps processing their own instruments. We didn't even cover that.
They don't do that.
No.
It's so much. It's so much to cover. It's like, again, all the topics, you know, that I try to stir that pot on. You know, it's we could talk about it for hours on end, because again, it's so broad. And again, I say it because our standards are interpreted by different people different ways. So every facility I've gone to, I've seen something different, you know, and it's always, you know, okay, where did we get this practice from? Like, where did we get that from? It's like, how did y'all come up with that process? It's like, wow.
True.
If you guys have not called Jessie with Stir That Plot, please go over to LinkedIn or go over to Instagram, find Jessie Lopez. He does some great clips called Stir That Pot. And he has some phenomenal foundational information for technicians, especially when we're talking about assembly, inspection. I've personally learned a lot about instrument inspection from him. So check it out.
So thank you. One thing, we'll pay some bills, we'll come back, and then we'll wind up. So, but guys, just pay attention. Guys, tune into our YouTube channel, SterileMD. Check out our videos, check out our content, and please hit that notification bell. Use your finger and just press it, right? And then you'll be notified every time we have new content or every time a new show comes out. So we'll be right back. So guys, it was a great show. I have Jessie, my man here, always give me a couple extra thoughts, some stuff to go and look up, make sure I'm on the right track and not saying the wrong things. So we really appreciate you coming on, Alessandra.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you, Jessie, for coming back onto the show with us. We're always excited when we have you here.
As always, guys, I appreciate the invite. It was a ball, you know, kicking it with you guys and just learning. You know, that's what we're here for, is to learn and project that knowledge to everyone listening and amongst ourselves, you know, because we're always learning.
Yeah. So, guys, make sure you check out Jessie on Stir That Pot. Great info on instrumentation. And then, Jessie, I want to see more of you. Definitely more of you. I can't so I'm looking out for you. And Alessandra, again, best co-host in the world, coming out with new things. Also, check out our little Etsy store. All our links in the description. Check out some gifts you could give that Sterile Processing Professional in your life. And guys, thank you for tuning in. From Jessie, Alessandra, and myself. Peace.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Take care. Happy holidays, guys.
Happy holidays. Bye.